In the last hours, the National Police accompanied and transferred approximately 70 inmates who were held in the New Hope prison. This was done as a preventive measure taken by the IMPEC authorities after the passage of Hurricane Julia and to avoid emergencies due to the large number of inmates inside the penitentiary. San Andres ranks 20 in the Competitiveness Index, according to a recent publication by the Private Competitiveness Council and the University of Rosario.
In a recent communication, the Private Competitiveness Council and the Universidad de Rosario presented their city's Competitiveness Index 2022. Highlighting on this occasion, the city of San Andres ranked 28th in the Measurement Index, registering a score of 4.2 out of 10, ahead of Valledupar, Sincelejo, and Florencia. This edition is of particular interest because, with the most of the information available for 2021, it reveals the possible path followed by the economic and social indicators of the cities after the crisis generated by the pandemic. In this sense, the publication highlights that although in 2021 there was a generalized trend of recovery in the cities, the truth is that not all of them did so at the same pace. For example, a widening of the performance gaps between cities is observed in the columns that are strongly related to economic reactivation. Among these, the labor market column, where the difference in score between the best and the worst in the measurement index increased to 5.1 points. Something similar occurred in the columns of ICT adoption, health, higher education and job training, business environment, market size, among others. This is particularly important and constitutes a warning signal as to where the actions and initiatives of local actors should be directed. This is in order to ensure the full recovery of regional economies and contribute to closing development gaps. San Andres is 6th in the business environment column. The city achieved its best performance in the business environment column with a score of 6.96 out of 10, as it ranked 2nd in the business density sub-pillar and 3rd in the indicator of participation of medium and large companies.
And 3 days after the passage of Hurricane Julia, the authorities continue to consolidate the losses generated by the natural phenomenon. This time, the authorities delivered a report on the damage to the agricultural sector.
Hurricane Julia hit San Andres, ravaging hundreds of crops, leaving serious losses in agricultural production. The Secretary of Agriculture and Fisheries made an inventory of the affected crops.
From the Secretariat of Agriculture and Fishing, we are going through to make an effective diagnosis of the losses that occurred in the agricultural sector, as well as in the livestock and fishing sectors. According to this diagnosis, we have a plan of action to carry out. So we will take all the evidence to make this strategic plan to support farmers, livestock, and fishermen of the department. We are estimating that there are 32 affected livestock and swine, and we are working. Yesterday, we held a work table with the pig farmers.
The Secretary of Agriculture and Fisheries said that the number of victims is expected to increase in the coming days as the inventory work progresses.
Much attention, the Supreme Superior Court of Bogotá denied the request for a security measure formulated by the prosecutor's office against Governor Everett Hawkins. Within the argument, the magistrate announced in the hearing that the prosecutor did not comply the argumentative and evidentiary burden that corresponded to him, and concluded by saying that Hawkins does not represent a danger to society.
This afternoon, the hearing was held where the magistrate of the Supreme Superior Court, Mario Cortez, read the verdict in the case of the governor of the Archipelago Department after the indictment of the same by the prosecutor's office for alleged crimes of embezzlement by appropriation and contract without compliance with legal requirements.
comillas. Esta declaratoria no...
This declaration does not imply that the judge cannot estimate in each specific case that the person is susceptible to preventive detention. It means, on the contrary, that the judge must verify, according to the evidentiary material and according to the sub-principles of necessity, reasonableness, and proportionality, that the precautionary measure is necessary without automatic remissions.
The magistrate also indicated that the departmental governor does not represent a danger to the community.
La realización de ese examen...
The realization of this integral examination in the present case does not give rise to the proceed in the aforementioned sense against the accused, since apart from the aforementioned annotations, there is only the fact that he currently holds the condition of governor, but such circumstance is not sufficient to analyze him under the prism of the nature and modalities of the punishable conduct regarding which it was evidenced the reasonable interference or inference to sustain that the implicated represents danger to the community.
On the other hand, the magistrate indicated that the prosecutor's arguments were not sufficient to prove his request against Hawkins.
El ente persecutor no cumple.
In synthesis, the prosecuting entity did not comply with the argumentative and evidentiary burden that corresponded to it. On the other hand, because the statement that Everett Hawkins represents a risk to the integrity of the investigation was based on an incorrect interpretation of the evidence, and on the one hand, because the possibility that the defendant may continue the alleged criminal activity is based exclusively on the fact that he is the governor of the department. This is not sufficient to consider that this freedom of his constitutes a danger to the community. Therefore, the request to deprive the defendant of his liberty preventively will not be granted. The criminal chamber of the Superior Court of the Capital District, in the exercise of the function of control of guarantees, resolves: first, to deny the request for a preventive detention measure formulated by the prosecutor's office against Everett Julio Hawkins Chagrin. Second, the decision is notified and only an appeal for reconsideration may be filed against it.
It is outstanding that the entities present, that included the prosecutor Salcedo, the delegate of the prosecutor's office, the representative of victims, and the defense lawyer, did not submit appeals against the verdict given by the magistrate.
Residents of the Black Dog sector are concerned about the structure that supports the lights in the soccer stadium that threatens to fall after being weakened.
The passage of Julia left several structures collapsed and weakened. So today, the inhabitant of the Black Dog sector, Julia Martinez, expresses her fear and concern for the pole that holds the lights of the soccer stadium. She fears that it will fall on her house, since during the natural phenomenon, it was shaken several times and two that were in nearby sports areas fell.
This tower where the front of my house right here, so the day for the hurricane, this tower when they shake plenty, and the neighbor run come very alarm and say if you come out of the house quick because the tower they shake too much. And immediately after that, another person come from the other side and say come out quick out of the house because two of them same tower just fall down long there. So them broke in at two and then fall down. So I want to call the attention for the authorities them to come and move this tower from front of my house, because I just couple steps from front of my house. If this another strong breeze come down, this tower can fall also because it rotten, because they don't make no type of maintenance on this tower. And if it fall down, it going in straight on my house.
Martinez requests that the attention must be given, as the competent authorities should act in response to remove this pole before it falls on her house.
So I want to call the attention of all the authorities we got to do with this, for them come urgent and move this pole, because it's a threat to my life and for the life of my sister and my niece will live with me right here.
Teleislas News consulted with the Secretariat of Sports, who would be in charge of the infrastructure of the soccer stadium, and unofficially stated that they will initiate the corresponding study to determine the actions to be taken in this case.
The president of Cotelco San Andres branch announced, based on the forecast, what has been the percentage of hotel occupancy during the school break week in the island, according to the Hotel Guild affiliated to his association.
With the slogan of quality before quantity and the city marketing that the hotels affiliated to Cotelco San Andres have been implementing, the president of SEIGAL gave an assessment of the hotel occupancy rate that has been developing throughout the school break week in the islands.
Today, Wednesday, we can say that the island is at above 65% occupancy. For Thursday and Friday, we expect an occupancy of above 80% based on the forecast. We expect the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, to be above 88% occupancy, and also the forecast show a supremely good occupancy rate for the month of November and December. So we hope that San Andres is once again leading the hotel occupancy percentages in the country.
Also, we stress that the affiliated hotels are providing 100% tourist service for visitors who wish to visit the archipelago destination.
Enrollment for preschool 2023 is open for children under 5 years old until March 2023. The departmental government, through the Secretariat of Education, called on parents to approach the official institutions of the island to enroll the youngest members of the household.
Taking into account that early childhood education is very important for mental development of children, the Secretariat of Education invites parents to approach the official educational institution closest to their place of residence, where they will receive all the necessary information to obtain a spot and preschool 2023.
Padres de familia de San Andrés.
Parents of San Andres, I want to encourage you that if you have a child that is older than 5 years of age, whether it's your child, your neighbors, or friend, come to the official institutions to register them for the 2023 enrollment. Preschool and early childhood is an unpostponable right for children. Please do not neglect to enroll them. Registrations are open until October 30th. Please go to any school that is close to your home.
The enrollment process will depend on the methodology of each educational institution. It should be noted that the enrollment will be open until October 30th, 2022, and that early childhood education is a right that cannot be postponed.
And now we continue with news of the municipality of Old Providence and Santa Catalina.
Good evening to all our viewers. This is the most relevant information from Old Providence and Catalina. After Hurricane Julia, farmers report that their crops and produce has been seriously damaged.
Several farmers report that the winds of Hurricane Julia has caused havoc in their plots of land. For some, the loss was in the millions.
All the planting, bosco, pear tree, lime tree, everything gone right back down again, no bread. Over 700 plantings are gone for me. Lime, all the lime from ground beat off, the pear tree, them mash up. Everything they from ground bread.
What the hurricane never root up in pop off the bosco, the plantain, banana, the orange tree, them, the macheted, has the apple tree, the pear tree, them pop off, and everything is on the ground, most everything on the ground.
So the big losses?
The big losses. Some of the planting them have on 7 hands.
Well, we don't get no affected by house, but we get by the farm. Everything is on the floor. Right now, we don't need a help. Not even we can get over there because through the mud and all kind of things fall in the road. So we get affected more in the farm.
How much money you believe you lose in this farm?
I lose around from 3 to 4 million pesos.
The Secretariat of Agriculture informs that they have already initiated a protocol to attend the people affected.
The registry of affected people that we are compiling at the Secretariat of Agriculture and Fisheries is focused on people who have directly suffered some type of damage to their crops, livestock, production, or fishing activity. This format seeks to identify people who have been affected in some way and who require some type of attention from the Secretariat.
The call is also for those who have home gardens and productive yards. All are invited to visit the office of the Secretariat in Rocky Point.
On the other hand, several citizens in the municipality have been incommunicated since before the hurricane, and despite continuing to pay their telephone bills, they have been without connectivity in Old Providence.
Without phone signal in several neighborhoods, and many times none of the phone companies has any data. This is the situation of Old Providence that has been taking place even before the hurricane. These problems have many users desperate for a solution.
Well, it's really bad. It's bad because you incommunicate with people. This Hurricane Julia passed, you never know what happened to the people in Sardis. Sardis people never know what happened to your Providence. And we had experience already with Yota, when we never have none signal at all from Movistar, and I don't know, maybe about 2 months, and still they was sending the receipt punctual. So I don't see why we have to pay for something when the service that we know they get.
Some have to go outside of their sector in order to send a message.
Well, I can't get no signal home, so I have to come around this curb where it's only spot have signal.
For work to communicate with family after this hurricane, they need to know that we are fine, but we cannot communicate with our family.
Others say that this problem is more serious than it seems.
Within the disaster prevention plan, there has to be a plan B and a connectivity plan C, because that is the only thing that allows us not only to track the phenomenon, but also to communicate among ourselves and to know what we are going to do. Before, 7 satellite telephony kiosks were promised. Where are they? They took away our phone landlines. Where are they?
The community demands a solution that has become recurrent for both companies on this island.
This is all we have for tonight for this section of Old Providence and Catalina. Continue in San Andres, Lisa with more Teleislas News. Good night.
Thank you, Millie. With news of the municipality, we reach to the end of this broadcast. We see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. with more Teleislas News. Good night.